Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Happy Thursday today. Gonna jump on here live. Give it a few seconds, everybody, a little bit of time to jump on with us. I hope you're doing well today. The sun is shining up here in North Idaho and it is beautiful. I feel like we've turned the corner and we're into spring now, so that's good. But looking forward to a little bit more warm weather. Good morning, Alyssa. How are ya? Haven't ran into any moose lately, so that's good. But looking out the window at some sunshine, and that is just something good about it. I don't know. So, today we're going to be learning a little bit about some aerodynamics and a little bit about how and why an airplane flies, how and why something gets lift, things like that. It's actually a lot simpler than I think we even realize. So we'll get into it a little bit today. Just give it just a little bit more time. If you've been doing anything fun in terms of projects or science or any sort of art or anything, make sure to leave us a comment and let us know. We'd love to hear what everybody's up to and what they're doing, how they're staying busy and how they're continuing to learn and things like that. So why don't we jump right into it today? Excuse me again, I'm going to give you an introduction of myself. My name is Heather O'Kelly. I'm one of the engineers here and excuse me, been working for Quest for almost 2 years now. So I get to do a really fun job, technical support and teaching and engineering and all kinds of fun stuff. So good morning, Hilliards. How are you guys? So as you can see, like I said before, we're actually going to learn about how an airplane flies. More in particular, we're going to learn how does an airplane fly and one theory behind it, right? So the theory of flight, sort of like practicing medicine, none of it is hard and fast and concrete, right? But a lot of these theories have been proven. So the basics of flying are, we have as you can see, a picture of an airplane. This would just be a regular Cessna, just something small. Looks like a 150, I believe. So it'd be small. It'd probably be myself and one other person or myself and a dog in there. So very small airplane. But all the basics are the same. In order for an airplane to fly in what's called equilibrium, which we won't talk about that today, but you'll need to have lift equal weight and thrust equal drag. Okay, so the biggie there is lift. Well, what is lift? Let's talk about that. An airplane has several airfoils. Anything that's designed to create lift is an airfoil. So, when you're driving down the road and you see one of those cars that has a big thing that sticks up on top of their trunk, it kind of looks like a wing. People call it a spoiler. That's the exact opposite of a wing, or it is a wing, but it's flipped upside down. Okay, so the whole purpose of that is we want to create force to push it towards the ground so it'll hug the road tighter. Airplanes are the exact opposite. We want it to go up, not down, so we want the lift to be pushing up. Okay, so we want to get off the ground, lift off the ground. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, I'm going to introduce you to Daniel Bernoulli. Daniel Bernoulli is this guy back in, I believe, the 1700s, came from a super smart family, really smart family. He wrote a book, which a lot of smart people do. He has proven what's called the Venturi effect. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But the Bernoulli principle is the basics of how anything generates lift, right? And all it boils down to is having pressure on something. I want more pressure on the bottom of the wing than I do the top of the wing. if I have pressure, meaning I'm pushing up on it, right, it's going to be lifted up. So specifically, he talks about the Venturi effect, which I just mentioned here a second ago. What is the Venturi effect? Well, picture a section of garden hose, some small section of garden hose. And now you put your hand around the middle of that section and you squeeze just a little bit, not so much that you shut off all of the flow in there, right? So we got water going through here, just as you can see on our picture right here. So this is our garden hose. Now we've squeezed the center here, but there's still water flowing from here to here, right? What happens to the water inside where it's being squeezed? Well, let's look at that. This, real quick, let me touch on this. This is a profile of a wing. Okay, so if you were to look at the end of the wing here, if you were to look at the very end of it, that's what you would see on the inside of a wing. It's just a pretty rough sketch with the spars in the inside, but that's the basic shape of pretty crude, big wing, right? How do both of those two relate? Well, I'll show you here in just a second. We've done a section view here, and I've showed you an internal cross section of this Venturi tube, which is, like I said, the piece of hose squeezed in the center. So what's happening when we put water from here to here? Well, the Venturi effect basically boils down to as velocity increases, our pressure decreases. Now, let me talk about that just a little bit more. The wing would sit underneath here. Okay, so that's where your cross section is. And let's just jump right into SolidWorks, where we've set up a flow simulation here. Now you can see with this flow trajectory, all right, so picture this. You have a wing here. Okay, so the pilots would be sitting up here. Okay, so the pilots would be right here. We got a ton of wind coming toward us, right? So hitting the leading edge of this wing, trailing over top of it and underneath it, and getting deflected off the back end of the wing, right? So the basics of this is, notice how much more distance the air particles have to travel due to the fact that this is curved, the top of this is curved, versus just having a straight path of getting straight from here to here, just whoop, straight across, right? Well, we have a pocket of air here, which is shown by these particles, okay, these little arrows moving. I'll go ahead and shut this off so I can explain a little bit better. We have a pocket of air right here, okay? So this pocket of air has to end, like it's all of its little buddies, right? All of the buddies have to start from here and end here at the same time. Well, how do they do that? Well, in order for these guys who have to travel way further to meet with these guys who don't have to travel very far at all, just a straight line, right? Path of least resistance just goes straight, which is a lot faster typically, right? In order for that to happen, these guys have to run a lot faster, okay? So what happens is they're going faster than these guys down here. So the faster the velocity of the particles on the top, the less pressure they're going to have. Newton's third law of motion, when we talk about this guy, states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, okay? So if I push on a table, or if I pick up this mouse, right, there's an opposite reaction, meaning there's some sort of reaction force, or there's some sort of, if you push something down a hill, it's going to fall down the hill, right? So it'll be opposite of it, right? So essentially what happens is, because there is high velocity up here, there's low pressure on the top. And again, equal and opposite reaction has to happen. Where does that opposite reaction happen? Underneath the wing down here. So there's a high pressure pocket down here creating lift underneath it. So let's bring us back here. Actually, let me show you real quick. If I turn this trajectory back on, this is done with a flow simulation in SolidWorks. I can show you, if you look up here, this is our key to show you the different velocities that we have and what's going fastest, so on and so forth, right? So you can tell by color that these are going a little bit slower than these guys up here. There's all kinds of different results that you can use and things like that. As result plots in FlowSim to show this, but this is kind of a cool one. You can see the trajectory of the particle movements. So the last thing I'll touch on here, cursor. The last thing I'll touch on is if you have a bunch of your friends that you're walking through, let's say this is now a tunnel or a hallway that you're walking through, right? So let's say you and 10 of your buddies are walking through here. And all of a sudden, the hallway gets really narrow through here. But you all want to end up out here at the same time. The idea behind this is not that me and 10 of my buddies are just going to squeeze really tight together and then walk through. No, we're going to single file out and walk as quick as we can through so we can all get there on the other side. That's the exact same thing. And that's proving Bernoulli's principle of the Venturi effect is as velocity increases, our pressure decreases, meaning that there's less of us smashed together, right? So moving faster, less pressure, meaning we have low pressure on the top, higher pressure on the bottom, creating lift, which makes an airplane fly. It's as simple as that. It's actually not near as complex as we make it, I don't think, but for some reason, it was hard for me to understand at first until I realized I just got to single out, do a single file line through the skinny part of the tunnel. So anyhow, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you being here today. Tomorrow, we have actually some 3D scanning that will happen, I believe. I'm not sure who's doing that, but it should be a really good time. So be sure to tune in and join us. We have a project that should be in the comments as well. So please let us know if you have any questions. Thanks for joining us today, guys.